Fateful field trip, student experiences near-death experience and discovers life after death. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. In this video, we will explore a mysterious and fascinating story. It's the story of a student who went on an unexpected camping trip that led to a near-death experience. During this journey, he not only faced the end of his life but also discovered a completely new world where life and passing are no longer clear boundaries. Let's dive into this journey and the profound lessons it brings. The cool autumn breeze gently swept through the campus of Blue Ridge University, where golden leaves drifted down from the tall trees, forming a thin carpet on the ground. The crisp and fresh air of autumn seemed to envelop the entire campus, carrying with it a subtle chill, as if winter was just around the corner. The leaves floated in the wind, painting a beautiful picture of nature, yet also hinting at a sense of solitude. The senior students, their faces bright and full of energy, were preparing for a weekend camping trip. This rare break in the school year provided them with the perfect opportunity to unwind, enjoy the serene natural surroundings after stressful days of tough exams and piling deadlines. The students were eager at the thought of exploring nature, seizing the chance to bond with friends and share joyful moments. With that excitement, they planned for what they hoped would be a rejuvenating trip, anticipating the chance to temporarily shake off the worries of academia and reconnect with themselves in a new, unfamiliar environment. There would be no books, assignments, or tight schedules here, just pure fun. However, little did they know, this trip would not be just another getaway. It would become an experience that would change their lives forever, in ways they could never have imagined. In this group of students, there was a guy named James Carter, a senior medical student with bright eyes and a gaze full of ambition. James always stood out among his friends because of his strong curiosity, especially when it came to stories about life and passing away. These aspects of life that science could explain, yet still carried countless mysteries that even he had never been able to solve. To James, everything had to have a reason, a clear cause, but questions about life, passing away, and the unseen world always puzzled him, lingering in his mind. He spent many late nights immersed in books about medicine, physiology, and supernatural phenomena. Particularly, he read stories about near-death experiences, about souls unable to move on, and mysteries that remained unsolved. He didn't just want to understand the human body, he also wanted to uncover what happens after we close our eyes forever, a mystery science has yet to explain. James wasn't the type to easily accept mysterious or superstitious stories, as he always placed his trust in logic and science. However, no matter how determined he was, he could not shake off the nagging questions inside him. He often had conversations with his friends, sharing his thoughts on passing away, on the strange things he felt humanity had yet to understand. Long evenings at the library or sitting by the campfires during outdoor trips, James was always the first to ask the big questions that not everyone dared to face. In moments like these, he felt like an outsider, looking at the world with doubt and a desire to find the truth. But he never imagined that he himself would become part of a story that went beyond all the limits of logic and imagination, a story that would ultimately change everything he believed about this world. James couldn't stop thinking about the upcoming trip. Although it was just a simple outing, something deep within him felt different. It was as if some invisible force was calling out to him. Each time he thought about the trip, he felt a strong pull, like a voice whispering his name, urging him forward. This feeling was hard to explain, but it clung to him, making it impossible to focus on anything else. He tried to push it away, thinking that maybe it was just excitement, as this was a rare opportunity for him to relax after weeks of intense studying. But the more he thought about it, the stronger the sense that something extraordinary was about to happen. On those late nights, lying in his dorm room with the soft glow of the lamp illuminating his medical books and assignments, James felt an eerie connection to this trip. It was as if a distant voice, a force beyond comprehension, was linking him to something far greater. He couldn't quite explain the sensation, but a part of him knew that this trip was going to be unlike any other. He felt as though he was standing at the threshold of something, and all he had to do was step forward, and his life would never be the same. The trip began early the next morning, as the first light of dawn filtered through the bus windows. The group of students eagerly boarded the bus, each of them filled with excitement for a day of outdoor activities. Laughter and lively conversations filled the air, blending with the hum of the engine as the bus began to move. The atmosphere in the bus was one of joy and anticipation, with no one suspecting that they were on their way to a place that would forever change their lives. The bus wound its way through winding roads, passing vast open fields, before heading into a remote mountainous region where they would stop. The scenery around them gradually became more rugged, with lush green hills giving way to thick forests and towering mountain peaks, like great stone towers watching over them from above. In the distance, they could already see an eerie area, where old, gnarled trees stretched their branches out of the earth, their withered limbs reaching into the sky like weak arms. As the bus drove deeper into this area, the atmosphere began to shift. Thick, dark clouds loomed overhead, as though hiding something just beyond their reach. The air around them grew still in a strange, unsettling way, the sounds of the outside world seeming to be swallowed by the silence of the forest. The students exchanged uneasy glances, a vague sense of unease creeping over them, but no one spoke. They could all sense the change in the air, as if they had crossed into a place that no longer belonged to their world. Eventually, the bus came to a stop. The doors opened, and the students stepped out. Before them lay an odd scene, a barren area with decayed trees and a foggy atmosphere. The smell of damp earth and cold air enveloped them, bringing with it an uncomfortable chill. There were no signs of life, no birds, no sounds. Everything was drowned in a heavy silence, as though time itself had stopped. James felt an eerie sensation surround him as the group ventured deeper into the forest. Although their footsteps echoed on the damp earth, the sounds of nature around them seemed to gradually fade away in a strange way. The rustling of leaves in the wind, the chirping of birds, all of it began to dull, as if some invisible force was slowly suffocating the space around them. He couldn't explain the feeling, but there was something unsettling in the air. It was as if a cold wave from another world, from somewhere distant, was slowly creeping in, turning everything around them into a haze of confusion and uncertainty. The atmosphere became thick, as though every breath they took was being sucked into an invisible force. James couldn't help but feel a chill creep up his spine as gusts of cold wind brushed against his skin. The cold wasn't just from the weather, it felt like it was seeping into his bones. The dry leaves beneath their feet cracked with each step, but even the sound seemed unable to break the strange silence enveloping the forest. By now, no one in the group was laughing or talking anymore. They walked quietly, each step slower than the last, as if they didn't want to disturb the eerie stillness surrounding them. James looked up at the sky, where dark clouds drifted swiftly, creating a misty veil as though they were hiding something mysterious above. He could feel a shift in the air, a silence that couldn't be explained. It was as if this place had once been home to ancient secrets, where time itself couldn't move forward, a place where only spirits and stories existed, and where human understanding couldn't reach. After venturing deep into the forest, the group of students finally stopped at a clearing near the lake. They quickly divided the tasks, some pitched the tents, others gathered wood and started a fire, while a few prepared dinner. The cheerful chatter began to dispel the ominous atmosphere the forest had cast upon them. However, James couldn't shake off the strange feeling that had been haunting him since they entered this place. When someone mentioned needing water from the lake, he eagerly volunteered, almost as if an invisible force was calling him there. Carrying a small container, James walked toward the lakeshore, where the pale moonlight cast a silvery glow on the water's surface, turning it into a shimmering mirror of the surroundings. The quiet was unnerving, with only the soft lapping of water against the rocks breaking the silence. As he crouched down to fill the container, a sudden chill ran down his spine. A faint breeze stirred, carrying with it a delicate scent of something unplaceable, something not of this moment. James lifted his head, and his eyes locked onto a figure. Standing just a few meters away was a woman, draped in a flowing white gown that seemed to ripple slightly in the breeze, as if untethered from reality. Her hair cascaded freely, catching the moonlight, but it was her eyes that held James captive. Her gaze was deep and luminous, almost as though they held an entire cosmos within them, and in that instant, James felt a connection that defied explanation. She didn't speak, but her eyes conveyed a mix of familiarity and mystery, as if she had been waiting for him. Time seemed to stand still. James froze, his heart pounding not out of fear, but from the overwhelming sense of wonder filling him. It felt as though she was communicating something, an unspoken invitation from a place he had never imagined. Then, without warning, she turned and walked into the thin veil of mist, fading away until she was no longer visible, leaving James standing there, completely awestruck by what he had just experienced. The woman emerged from the mist, her movements graceful yet commanding, as if each step she took was in perfect harmony with the earth and sky. Her presence was serene, devoid of any threat, yet something about her made James's heart race, a mix of fear and awe. When she finally spoke, her voice was as soft as the wind rustling through the trees, but it carried an inexplicable power, as though every other sound in the forest had quieted just to listen to her. "What are you seeking?" she asked, her luminous eyes piercing into his very soul. Those eyes didn't just see him, they seemed to delve into his thoughts, his aspirations, and the fears he had buried deep within. Her voice wasn't loud, yet each word resonated within him, stirring emotions he couldn't quite explain. James tried to respond, but his mouth felt as though it was sealed shut. Questions flooded his mind. Who was she? Why was she here? How did she know what he was searching for? But then, her gaze reminded him gently yet firmly that there was no need to fear. A strange sense of calm began to wash over him, as if he had just found a long-lost companion who had been waiting for him all this time. She didn't rush him or press for answers. She simply stood there, waiting, as if time no longer mattered. The world around them seemed to fade into silence, leaving only the two of them locked in a dialogue beyond words, drawing James deeper into a journey he never could have anticipated. James froze in place, his eyes wide with astonishment, as if he were caught in a dream he couldn't wake from. Every sense in his body heightened, attuned to the moment. The air around him seemed to thicken, wrapping him in a faint, chilling mist. His heart pounded loudly, not out of fear, but from something else entirely, something magical and deeply captivating. He stared at the woman, her eyes shimmering like stars in the darkness, holding a profound mystery he couldn't quite grasp. I don't know," James stammered, his voice shaky yet earnest. I feel like there's something very different about this place, as if it's trying to tell me something I can't quite understand." He stepped back, but his feet felt rooted to the ground, tethered by an invisible force drawing him toward her. There was an inexplicable connection between them, a strange sense of familiarity despite this being their first encounter. The woman smiled softly, her expression gentle yet shrouded in mystery, as if she held all the answers James had been searching for. The moonlight reflected off the still waters, illuminating her face and making her appear both ethereal and tangible. Her voice, though quiet, carried an inexplicable power, like a melodic whisper weaving its way into the depths of his soul. "This is the place that lies at the fragile boundary between life and rebirth," she said, her tone deliberate, each word chosen with care. "It's not merely a liminal space, it's a realm where people confront the true essence of who they are, the questions they've avoided asking themselves in their everyday lives." She took a step closer, the breeze brushing past her and causing her white cloak to ripple like the wings of an angel. "This is your chance, James. A chance to uncover the deepest truths about yourself and the meaning behind everything you've experienced." Suddenly, James felt a sharp, stabbing pain in his chest, as if an invisible blade had pierced straight through his heart. The sensation wasn't just physical, it was like a tidal wave of anguish that swept away every shred of awareness he had. He clutched at his chest, his wide eyes darting around, searching for answers in the space around him, but everything seemed shrouded in an impenetrable fog. The sounds of the forest slowly faded, as though someone was turning down the volume of life itself. His legs began to falter, the strength leaving them with every passing second. The moonlight, once illuminating his path, now dimmed to a faint glow on the edges of his vision. He gasped for air, but the atmosphere felt too thick, too oppressive to fill his lungs. Finally, he collapsed to the ground. His eyes fluttered shut, and an infinite darkness enveloped him, swallowing his consciousness whole. A profound loneliness took hold, accompanied by an unnamed fear. In the last fleeting moments before his mind surrendered entirely, he thought he glimpsed a faint beam of light in the distance, but it was far too distant to reach. When James woke up, he found himself suspended in a strange state between reality and a dream. The lakeshore was gone, no rustling wind, no damp scent of forest soil. Instead, he stood in an expansive void, where darkness stretched endlessly like a velvet shroud covering everything. The ground beneath him wasn't truly ground, it was smooth, sleek, and chillingly cold, as though he was standing on a surface made of faint, ethereal light rather than solid matter. There was no sound, not even the faintest echo in the distance. The silence was so profound that James could hear the steady rhythm of his own heartbeat reverberating in his chest. The world around him resembled an abandoned wasteland where time itself seemed to have stopped centuries ago. There were no trees, no stars, no signs of life whatsoever. Everything was frozen in an eternal moment, both haunting and unfamiliar. James felt dizzy, a lightheadedness that made him lose all sense of direction. His heart pounded rapidly, though not entirely out of fear. A strange sensation began to creep over him, like an unseen force was comforting him, soothing him. It was a peace, but not the peace of slumber. It was a peace both tender and cold, as if he were being cradled by unseen, formless hands. "Where am I?" James muttered, his voice trembling slightly. He glanced around, hoping to find a sign, a figure, or even a clue to explain his strange presence in this realm. But his searching gaze met only the endless darkness, an obscure veil that revealed nothing of the purpose or meaning of this place. Suddenly, a voice echoed not from any specific direction but seemingly from everywhere at once. The voice was gentle yet profound, carrying an otherworldly power that made James feel both apprehensive and deeply drawn in. It wasn't just a sound, it was a sensation, as though each word reached into the very core of his mind and heart. "This is the realm of souls who have left the physical world," the voice explained, each word like a gentle wave soothing James's worries. "A realm that bridges life and passing, where beings can confront themselves, uncover hidden truths, and gain a deeper understanding of the meaning of their lives." James listened intently, trying to grasp the deeper meaning behind the words. He felt a sense of peace but also an overwhelming mystery, as if each word wasn't just an explanation but an invitation to embark on a profound inner journey. "Where am I?" James muttered, his voice trembling slightly. He glanced around, hoping to find a sign, a figure, or even a clue to explain his strange presence in this realm. But his searching gaze met only the endless darkness, an obscure veil that revealed nothing of the purpose or meaning of this place. Suddenly, a voice echoed not from any specific direction but seemingly from everywhere at once. The voice was gentle yet profound, carrying an otherworldly power that made James feel both apprehensive and deeply drawn in. It wasn't just a sound, it was a sensation, as though each word reached into the very core of his mind and heart. "This is the place of souls who have departed from the physical world," the voice explained, each word like a gentle wave soothing James' anxieties. "A realm of transition between life and passing, where beings can confront themselves, uncover hidden truths, and gain a deeper understanding of the meaning of the life they have lived." James listened intently, trying to grasp the deeper meaning behind the words. He felt a sense of peace but also an overwhelming mystery, as if each word wasn't just an explanation but an invitation to embark on a profound inner journey. "Do not be afraid, James," the woman spoke, her voice blending with the surroundings, soft yet commanding. "Passing is not an end, but merely the beginning of another journey, a doorway opening to deeper understandings of this very life." She took slow steps closer, each movement seemingly weightless, leaving a faint glow in the darkness. The light from her spread throughout the space, alleviating some of the cold and loneliness that lingered there. Her eyes gazed deeply into James as if to convey a message that words alone could not fully express. "Here," she continued, her voice rising and falling like the wind, "you will reunite with those who have departed from you, souls waiting to guide and share with you the lessons they have gathered over time. They will not only help you answer the questions that have haunted your mind, but will also help you see the missing pieces in the puzzle of your life." James felt his heart tighten, not from fear, but from a strange yet comforting sensation. She wasn't just speaking about passing, she was talking about life within passing, about something beyond his usual understanding. James turned his head, his eyes meeting the shapes that surrounded him. These spirits were not mere shadows, but full-bodied entities, shapes that were clear, yet had no physical presence like humans. They stood there, the space around them seeming to recede to make room for their existence. Each spirit appeared different: one woman in a white dress, as if from a bygone era, a man in old wartime attire, and a young boy sitting quietly with a flute in hand. Each of them carried a unique story, an unchangeable history, but now they stood together in this boundless space, seeking peace. Clearly, these spirits were not mere passive beings. They didn't just stand there in silence, for occasionally one would smile or softly speak to the person beside them. A story would be shared and then quietly fade away. Stories of long-lost days, joyful moments, deep sorrow, or even regrets left unresolved. Yet, despite it all, there was a profound tranquility that enveloped them. Each spirit no longer bore the burdens of the past, no longer feared or regretted the choices they had made. They had found peace in this eternal realm, in a space where there was no pain, no fear, only the lessons they had learned from their own lives. Throughout his journey, James encountered countless spirits, each carrying their own story and lesson. One spirit was a brave warrior, someone who had lived through fierce battles and sacrificed himself for his ideals. However, when he told James his life story, his eyes no longer carried the hardened look of someone who had once fought in wars, but instead, they carried a gentleness, as if he had found peace in his sacrifice. "I fought all my life for an ideal," he shared, "but then I realized that love and compassion are the only things that last. That's what I didn't understand when I was alive." Another spirit was a famous artist who had spent his life creating art, yet throughout his years, he always felt empty, as if art was just a way to hide the loneliness in his soul. "I sought perfection in every painting, in every melody," he said, "but when I passed, I realized that true perfection lies in simple things, in the moments we share love with others." In addition, James met wandering spirits, those who had yet to find peace. They seemed trapped in the memories of their past lives, unable to let go, unable to free themselves. They shared with James their unhealed regrets, the mistakes they could never undo. Yet in their eyes, James also saw something changing, a flicker of hope, as if they were finally beginning to find the peace they had lost. Each of their stories was profound and moving, not only about the pain they had endured but also about the beautiful moments they had lived, memories of love, family, and cherished relationships. Every story felt like a lesson, a reminder of the preciousness of life, of not missing the important moments that we often rush past in the haste of our everyday lives. One of the spirits James encountered was Emma Lewis, a young girl who had passed away in a tragic accident. She was only in her 20s when her life was cut short, and her long brown hair gently swayed in the breeze, her eyes still holding the youthful hope of someone who had just stepped into the world, even though she no longer existed in the physical realm. Emma shared with James about her life, a life that seemed to have so much left undone, dreams unfulfilled, and ambitions that were never brought to life. She had once dreamed of becoming an artist, but life's difficulties had forced her to abandon that dream, and she had settled for a mundane job that she never truly loved. Emma also spoke of her first loves, the innocent yet passionate relationships of her youth. She had fallen for a boy during her college years, a love that seemed so promising but ended in heartbreak due to misunderstandings and lack of communication. She sighed, her eyes distant as though reliving every moment from her past. "We loved each other so much, but we didn't understand each other. We didn't give each other the chance to change and forgive." However, what struck James the most was the lesson that Emma had learned in her short life. She taught him about the power of forgiveness. "You know, James," she said gently, "forgiveness isn't about doing something for others, it's about setting yourself free. I carried regret and wounds for so many years, and I realized that I couldn't move forward until I let go of them." She told him that even after she had passed, she had still not fully forgiven her mistakes, but now she understood that only by forgiving herself could she truly find peace. Forgiveness is a process. "But it's the key to freedom. You can't live forever with regret," Emma said, her voice soft but resolute. "Regret will only weigh you down, holding you back while life continues to unfold. Forgiveness, no matter how difficult, is the key to unlocking the door to inner peace." James looked into Emma's eyes, feeling the sincerity in every word she spoke. He wondered if he had the courage to forgive himself for the mistakes he had made, the things he couldn't change, the words left unsaid, and the decisions he regretted. Emma smiled, as though she understood his thoughts, and continued, We can't change the past, but we can learn from it. Forgiveness isn't for others, it's for freeing ourselves from the burden of pain. She gazed into the distance where other spirits were gathered, sharing their life stories. Every life, whether long or short, faces its challenges. We will always make mistakes, experience failure. But what matters is that we must learn to stand up, face them, and move forward. James felt Emma's words like a gentle whisper in his heart, as if she were helping him open a door within his soul that he had never dared to cross. He realized that passing is not an end, but a part of an endless journey, one that every soul must go through, each with its own lessons to share. Each encounter with another spirit made him realize more. The warriors, the artists, the lost souls, they all carried valuable lessons about forgiveness, the courage to face mistakes, and love. He understood that life was not a straight path, but a series of twists and turns, full of trials and challenges. But only by letting go of hatred and living with an open heart could he find peace and overcome everything. When James slowly opened his eyes, he realized something strange. He felt completely different. The icy cold he had felt before had completely vanished, replaced by a warmth and gentleness like the early morning sun. It was as if a layer of fog had been lifted from his soul, bringing clarity and an inner peace he had never experienced. The stillness in his heart was profound, as though he had just undergone a long journey and had finally found the path to serenity. He sat up and looked around. Everything was as it had been, but he himself had changed. The sounds of nature rang clearer than ever, the gentle breeze brushed against his skin, and the light of a new day seemed to shine directly into his heart. He glanced over at the group of students still engaged in their camp activities, preparing breakfast and chatting happily, as if nothing had happened. But James knew this trip was not just a vacation, it was a deep experience he would never forget. He returned to the place where he had stood before, where he had encountered souls and realized the important lessons about life and departure. He recalled every moment of that journey, clearly feeling the teachings he had received from the souls he had met. Departure is not an end, but part of a cycle, and forgiveness, love, and understanding are the things he must carry with him throughout his life. James felt a deep sense of gratitude for this encounter, for the valuable lessons he had learned, and especially for the sense of peace that had now become a part of him. He knew that no matter how life unfolded, he would always carry with him the lessons of forgiveness, courage in facing mistakes, and love, things he would never forget and would always guide his decisions in the future. The near-death journey had opened a new perspective on life for James that he had never considered before. Previously, he had always been caught up in the daily grind, worrying about work, relationships, and the expectations society placed on him. But now, after experiences that transcended the boundaries of life and passing, James realized that life, no matter how many challenges, pains, or failures, can still find deep peace, as long as we know how to accept what has passed, forgive ourselves and others, and live true to the person within. He understood that not everything in life had to be perfect, and perfection was not the goal. Sometimes, forgiveness is the key to freeing our hearts. It's the way we can shed the burdens we've carried for so long. Forgiveness is not only for others but also for ourselves, for the mistakes we've made, the wrong decisions, and for the times we were weak. Accepting ourselves, flaws and all, is the way to find peace within. He understood that not everything in life had to be perfect, and perfection was not the goal. Sometimes, forgiveness is the key to freeing our hearts. It's the way we can shed the burdens we've carried for so long. Forgiveness is not only for others but also for ourselves, for the mistakes we've made, the wrong decisions, and for the times we were weak. Accepting ourselves, flaws and all, is the way to find peace within. This journey had taught James that he didn't have to live according to others' expectations or society's standards, but instead, he needed to live a life that was true to himself, to his own values and dreams. It was this honesty and self-acceptance that gave him the freedom of soul, allowing him to embrace each moment of life fully, without fear and without regret. Thank you all for watching the mysterious story of the student on his fateful camping trip. I hope his near-death experience has given you a deeper perspective on life and passing. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next magical stories. Thank you so much, and see you in the next videos.